Hey everyone, Mulligan here, and welcome back to another episode of Eternal Errors. For those new, this is a series where we take a look at some mistakes I make and I try to educate others on what the correct decision is in a given situation. Typically, each episode focuses on a specific deck. This time around, we'll be looking at Chainbrei, a deck that I've wanted to do an episode on for a little while now, and the deck that I ultimately decided to play in the Masters Challenge that happened last weekend. Similar to the Jennev Midrange episode, most of the examples you'll see will be from my Masters Challenge run, since I want to talk about what I feel were some game-losing misplays I made during the run. I won't include my exact deck list in the video description because it's only one card different from another deck list that I feel is just better. So I'll be including that other list in the video description instead. Let's get into it. This game here is the first of the two that we'll be looking at from the Masters Challenge, and it's against Dark Revenger, who's on Jennev Midrange. I start to fall behind a bit after Sandstorm Titan hits the board. Expecting Dark Revenger to pull ahead even further, I played a Winchest Merchant and swapped Martyr's Chains for Pristine Light to reset the board. I've been waiting for Dark Revenger to play a second unit so I could attack and get full value from Pristine Light, but let's listen in and see what happens next. Oh, he didn't see it. That's crazy. Okay. Oh, it might be display. Yeah, I think I should have went to loot here. Yeah, I think Revenger has display.
A single spear leads the fight.
That's display. So, as you heard, I was about to finally make my move by attacking with my owl and using Pristine Light, and then I realized the card in my opponent's hand could be Display of Instinct, which can counter Pristine Light. So, I switched my play up and dropped to loot for no additional value. There's actually two things going on here that I want to touch on. First off, when you have a plan in motion, you almost always want to stick to that plan. If you switch gears, you usually end up in awkward situations like the one we just saw. Sometimes, yes, you will get blown out by a card, but that's just something you have to accept in general. That said, I want to touch on the other issue that happened in this game, and this is probably the even bigger mistake. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to get full value from Pristine Light. If we look at the turns leading up to the Tulute play, every play I made was with that in mind, which in hindsight was also a mistake. You can even see it here with the chump block I made with Minotaur Ambassador after deciding not to double block because I saw Dark Revenger mouse over a card. I really didn't want to lose the owl permanently, but it just turned out to be my undoing. I think Dark Revenger might have even picked up on the fact that I had Pristine Light in hand. Anyway, the takeaways from this are that in general, you want to stick to the plan you've decided to go with, and there is such a thing as being too greedy. You don't have to get full value from your cards all the time. The second game we'll be looking at is also from the Masters Challenge, and it's against Keith Pelig on Huru Control. I get to a turn that doesn't look too important at all, but it turns out to be very crucial. Let's quickly look at what I do here.
Welcome.
This turned out to be a big mistake. I played Winchest Merchant and just loosely grabbed Martyr's Chains. When you're against a control deck running Harsh Rule, you need to plan ahead for the Harsh Rule by grabbing Sword of Unity from your market and sequencing your ramp correctly so that you have access to 6 power before the turn they would Harsh Rule. That way, you can spellcraft the Sword of Unity and protect your board with the Stand Together. Regardless, I didn't do that, and I was rightfully punished by meeting up with Harsh Rule. With the chain stuck in my hand, due to losing my ramp, and my opponent able to play their own Martyr's Chains, you can pretty much guess what happened after that. Planning out your ramp several turns ahead is just something you need to be doing with Chainbrei in general. This final game isn't from the Masters Challenge. In fact, it's a pretty old one from back when I first started learning Chainbrei. But I still wanted to include this one since it's a pretty good example of learning what cards you should expect to see in certain matchups. Anyway, this is against Eric Fils, who is on Reanimator. I managed to ramp really quickly this game, but I had no payoff cards like Martyr's Chains or Pit of Lenecta to play. My opponent manages to go off with Grasping at Shadows, but I still have a 4/4 Owl, and I do manage to top deck the Chains and get some mileage out of it before it gets stolen by Burglarize. Then I top deck Aurelian Merchant. Let's listen in and see what happens. So we win the game. I'm gonna get Sword of Unity, and the reason why is because yeah, so they ended up getting Annihilate. That's what feels bad. Could I have done that differently? I could have gotten Great Parliament to play around, yeah, the play was to get Great Parliament. This had to be from Market, because they only run Annihilate in their Market, they don't run it in their main deck. Unfortunately, I grabbed the wrong Market card in Sword of Unity, thinking I'd won the game. The plan was to spellcraft it, to give my Owl Overwhelm and Aegis, so that way it couldn't be chump blocked and it couldn't be removed. Except it could be removed. I completely forgot that every Reanimator deck was running this little card in their Market called Annihilate back then. Whether I spellcrafted or not didn't matter, since my opponent gets a response window to Annihilate either way, whether that's when I attack or during the Stand Together spell. I also wasn't paying attention to the fact that they had 2 open power at the end of their turn as well. The correct card to get was the Great Parliament, because they weren't going to beat me in the air unless they started top decking multiple Black Sky Harbingers afterward, since the one they played off of Vara had Voidbound. So the lesson here is to just pay attention to what your opponent is doing, if they have power open, and remembering the cards that other decks play so you know what could blow you out on a given turn before you execute your game plan. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Eternal Errors. Feel free to leave a like if you liked the video. If you have any ideas for this series, let me know in the comments section below. For those new, if you liked what you saw, feel free to check out my previous episodes in this series by clicking the link on your screen. If you don't want to miss future episodes, subscribe to the channel. Clicking the bell icon under the video guarantees that you don't miss any future videos, as long as you don't mind notifications. Thanks again for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.